Hello arty peoples and welcome to another episode of Jerry's Live. My name is Emmy and I'm your host this evening, and today I have a really fun class on alcohol inks. We have this brand new Artfinity Alcohol Inks that are just hitting the market, so I wanted to show you guys kind of what they are, what they can do, and a couple of the different colors that I am obsessed with because I cannot help myself. But if you are interested in anything that I'm going to show you during today's class, make sure you go to the website JerrysArtarama.com and type in today's class code, which is JL284, so 284, and in the search bar at the top, and that'll bring up the teacher's cart, and you should be able to find everything that I'm using in there. So let's jump in. First and foremost, what is alcohol ink? Alcohol ink is essentially like, you know, when everybody's talking about different types of paints, there's a pigment and then there's a binder where you take the pigment and you mix it in with like an oil, and that makes an oil paint. If you mix it in with an acrylic polymer, same pigment, that makes an acrylic paint. If you mix it in with gum arabic, that makes watercolor. Alcohol inks are not that. We were just discussing this actually. Alcohol ink is not pigment based, it's dye based. So the way that is that they take the dye and then they suspend it with alcohol, essentially. Not the drinking kind. Do not drink these. Do not eat your art supplies. These are specifically for art, not cocktails. So essentially though, the dye is dissolved in the alcohol. So whereas pigment does not dissolve, alcohol inks have a dye that do dissolve. So think about it more like when you mix salt in with water. The salt will dissolve into your water. If you mix sand in with water, your sand is never going to dissolve because it doesn't do that. So pigments are more like sand, dyes are more like salt. So that's why you get really, really, really bright, vibrant colors that are, you know, pretty consistent, and it doesn't have like, you know, that separation sometimes that happens when you squirt out the paint in the tube and you get like a bubble of oil. You know, that doesn't happen with these. They're always constantly mixed. You don't even have to like shake them up to mix them anymore. It's just there. But that being said, because these are dye-based, they are fugitive. That's just the name of the game. All alcohol inks are going to be fugitive. No matter what color you're using, fluorescent or otherwise, it's just the name of the game. So that is the essential details of alcohol inks. So now we get to play with them. Now, when it comes to making alcohol ink art, your surfaces matter. We were talking about that. I have Mott and I were on the show a couple weeks ago talking about the Artfinity markers that are just hitting the market too, because these correspond with those. FYI, if you do like the markers, there are 300 markers, but 100 of these inks, and the colors coordinate. So this right here is a mixing yellow. There is a mixing yellow marker as well, and you can use this to refill your marker, but it's the same exact pigment or dye that's in there. But wow, I just lost my train of thought of what I was saying before that. Anywho, oh, that's what we were talking about. The surfaces. Your surfaces matter. Just like it matters for the markers, it matters for the inks. So I have a couple swatches here, and I'll show you a couple of the colors that I have just pulled out from the line. But I wanted to show you a couple different papers as well. But I will make sure to note what papers I've worked on and what surfaces, but that way I'll kind of show you what you can do and what you don't want to do because it doesn't look good. But on the table here, I have our primaries. So our primaries versus our mixing colors. So the primaries, as you would think of primaries, are like red, yellow, and blue, right? Mixing colors are more like your printer inks, where you get like the CMYK. So cyan, magenta, and yellow. So the blues and the yellows and the reds are slightly shifted. And if you actually go to the overhead camera real quick, I can definitely show you that. So here you go. So these on the top are my primaries, right? I have primary red, primary blue, primary yellow. So same concept as when we're learning about colors in school. These are your primary reds, or your primary colors, right? But when it comes to printing, you have, sorry, there's a slight glare on this one. I'll tilt it ever so slightly so you can see the color a little better. When it comes to the mixing colors, when you get really, really vibrant mixes, these are the ones that are going to give you those brilliant colors. And I can actually show you one versus the other. So these are your primaries. These are your mixing colors. So as you can see, like here, if I even do it this way, we got very similar placement for the color, right? So right here with my primary colors, it did make a green, but it's like a kind of a desaturated green. Same thing with the purple, kind of a desaturated purple. It did make a really pretty orange. That's, I will say, when it comes to finding your primary colors to mix them together, usually if you're having a hard time mixing brilliant colors with, like, you can get a really pretty orange or you can get a really pretty green, but you can't get a really pretty purple, that's because of the color shifts of your colors. So like the blue can lean more towards like a red, or it can lean a little bit more towards yellow. So when it leans a little bit more towards red, you get a really pretty purple when you mix those together, but you'll get an ugly green because that red and that blue is going to kind of mess with your yellow a little bit and give it desaturated a bit. And that's why usually when it comes to mixing your primary colors, people have a hard time getting all three, but when you mix them with cyan, magenta, and yellow, you get those really, really beautiful colors. So that gave me an incredible purple, but an also really vibrant green, and that orange is absolutely stunning as well. Now granted, you mix them all together, you get a dark, dark color, no matter which ones you use. But that's the big difference between those, the primaries and the mixing colors. But they come in the markers as well as the alcohol inks. So you can play around with them in marker form or in the fluid form like this, which is really fun. So any questions on this so far? It's pretty straightforward. Very, very fun though. All right, and the so far the paper that I've been using is the Artfinity synthesis paper. So this is a non-absorbent plasticky kind of paper. So let me grab, I think I brought it up here. I'm trying to make sure I move things around on my table. So the synthetic paper is, think of it almost like a sheet of plastic, almost. So I have, it's a 9x12 and I cut it in half. It's really flexible and it does not absorb your inks. So when you pop, let me actually move these out of the way because truth be told, I'm a mess when it comes to alcohol inks. I make a big mess, which is why I'm also using the tray. I did in the teacher's cart include the 11x15, so that would actually fit your whole sheet of 9x12 paper in there. I just thought that might be a little bit big for my table space here. So I went with a smaller one, and if I cut it in half, it fits nice and snug in there, but with enough space to move around. So are we going primaries or mixing colors, guys? You guys pick.
Mixing.
Mixing. Okay. So
I like teal.
you like teal? Okay. So actually, why don't I go with mixing blue and the yellow, right? So my paper is not absorbing that ink. It's really just kind of sitting on top of it and it wants to flow around, right? So if I take rubbing alcohol, so I have on the table here, I have, it's kind of rubbed off a little bit there because I was playing with this all day. Don't mind me. But I have 91% isopropyl alcohol and 70% isopropyl alcohol. And if you take them and kind of make a bridge between the two colors, you can start them mixing. I'm going to actually just toss in a little bit more of this. And I also have from the Ranger ink line. I really love this thing. And it's really great for carpal tunnel, but it helps you to move your alcohol inks around. And no matter what, it's still not absorbing into that paper. So if I actually were to, this is definitely wet and it's going to get everywhere, flip it. Granted, it kind of fell off the edge there, but nothing's going through the paper, right? It's just sitting on the surface. Now I say that because I have Bristol paper as well. And I wanted to show you what would happen if you use Bristol paper instead, because this is pretty standard in a lot of people's kind of studio space. So if you were to use something that's a little bit more absorbent like Bristol, let me just make a mess over there. And I have a rag down here somewhere. Easy wiper. This is why I also really love using the butcher tray. I can just wipe that right off and it's ready to go. So this is going to be a bit of a mess, but you'll see real fast why this is not ideal surface, right? Try and move as quickly as possible. It's starting to absorb in the paper and it doesn't really want to move. So even if I take that isopropyl alcohol, it's gonna kind of move it, but it's still pretty absorbed. That's why you want, when it comes to alcohol inks, you really want your surface to be a non-absorbent surface. You want it to be kind of on the slick side. That's why the Artfinity synthesis paper is perfect for it. But you're going to be struggling with this. Also, if I do flip it over, you can see it's absorbed straight into the paper, and it's going to hold on to those things. And that's, I even, with it having this really, really saturated, I did this earlier. This is about as good as I could get it. But like, it was a struggle to get it to this level. And then as soon as it dried, it just soaked up everything, all of the dye, and then it just kind of grayed out all of my colors, which is very sad. It's not as vibrant as I wanted it to be. Yes, we have a question?
Yes, what is the deal with the two different levels of alcohol percentages?
Oh, the 91% and 70%?
Is there like a reason you have two different kinds?
So yes, and I actually have more than just that on my table here, which I can actually show you real quick. And let me show you, I did samples here as well, so you guys can see. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol. This is 70% isopropyl alcohol. Then I have my ethyl alcohol. And then I have a hot mess, which was the, it's the odorless mineral spirits, which is the Studio Self. So they each do something slightly different to your alcohol inks, right? So with the 91%, it gave me really good interaction, gives me really hard lines. It really picks up your dyes and moves it around quite a lot. As opposed to the 71%, it still does that, but it's a little softer kind of a thing. It's one of those things where it doesn't move it as fast either. Whereas like the 91% reacts almost immediately. Now the ethyl alcohol is bizarre. It is very soft in how it moves things around, but the thing I find with that is that it's not my favorite when it comes to the surface. Like it just reacts oddly sometimes. It always depends on like the dye that's been used, but like I'm not getting consistent results with the ethyl alcohol. But Studio Solve is a weird one. So as you can see, like this is the best kind of area here to show you. So what it does is that it starts to move it around, but the like oil content that's kind of in it will almost encapsulate the alcohol ink and move it around in like a weird, lava lamp is the only thing that really kind of comes to mind, where it encompasses it and then kind of moves it around in like little blobs. But eventually it did dry, so like it does work, but it just moves it in such a bizarre way that if this is what you're after, then, you know, great. But it does take a very long time for it to dry. I think this one took me a full day before I was brave enough to really touch it. And like even then it feels like a different kind of surface compared to, these feel much more dry comparatively. But that's what they'll do. Now, if you guys want me to do this on camera, I can also do that, where you guys can see it in action. I believe, I don't remember which one I used on this one, so maybe we'll do that later. Now, I also made sure to look this up. The isopropyl alcohol and the ethyl alcohol, technically speaking, you can mix them together on the same piece, but just be aware that you are working with isopropyl alcohol and ethyl alcohol. Use it in a ventilated surface, or a ventilated area. Like we're in the studio here and I have, a big open space area and like great ventilation here. If you guys are working at home, you might want to open a window, maybe go outside on a porch, something like that, because this can, especially the isopropyl alcohol and the ethyl alcohol, it can have a smell to it. And the studio solve, for sure, you want good ventilation with that. But let's use the primaries while I'm doing this one. So, primary red. Yes, we have a question?
Yes. Lots of people are asking on YouTube, how long do these take to dry? Like, how much working time do you have?
I would say just about as normal as any other alcohol ink that I've used. It really, it does have to evaporate. That's how they dry, similar to like water. But like, as you can see, it's still working. Whereas this one, like the yellow is still a little wet, but it's still got some work time. But the cool thing is that you can always activate them again. So like you can see, I just dropped in a little bit of the 91% isopropyl alcohol and it immediately reacts, right? If I do that over here, it also immediately starts reacting. So like, even though that area was dry, I can go back in. And actually that's how I typically have been working, is that I have about, I don't even want to talk about how many of these things I've been playing with. There might be a lot of artwork around me that I've just been like fiddling with all day.
And so very clean to have been fiddling with this all day.
I washed my hands with scrubby soap, which is why, like, it's dye based, so you can see that there's a little bit of pink staining on my hands.
I cannot touch alcohol markers without it, like.
Yeah, it gets kind of everywhere. But I have a really good scrubby art soap. It has a little bit of grit to it, so it really scrubbed my hands clean. But no, I've been playing with this all day. So like, I'll have a piece that I start and like I let it dry. And then I go back on top of it with either additional layers of ink or the isopropyl alcohol to get it to kind of start reacting and give me those kind of cells and like really lovely, reactions. Speaking of which, I'm going to take, you know what? I'm going to stick with the red so that you guys can see the different ways that it reacts over here. Just so it's like apples to apples, So that's the 91% isopropyl alcohol. That's the 70%. So again, it's still reacting, but it's just like not holding its form as much, if that makes any sense, But that's the part that I really like, is that if I wanted to, if I drop it in and I don't like it, I can move this around and then let it dry a little bit longer and then go back in with more, Again, it's giving me a lot of reaction, but it's a little bit easier on the kind of way that it does that. Whereas like this one reacts just so quickly. So the other one though is ethyl alcohol, and I'm going to just show you that as well. Just trying to keep them separated. Oh, and I'm going to also do a little bit of the, there you go, this one. So I have the 91% isopropyl alcohol. This is the 70% isopropyl alcohol. Sorry, I'm mixing those up. Now I'm doing 70% ethyl alcohol. So this one, again, does react, but it just reacts slightly different. And they all work really well. It's just slight variations, which is really cool. And you can get a subtle difference between them. I am not going to do the studio solve though, unless you guys really want me to. Do I have to? Because it is, I feel like it's a mess. And I'm already a mess. And it's something that you guys should play with. But yeah, lava lamp is what comes to mind. Really. Alright, so just reacts slightly different. So like, yeah, you see how it's not giving me those big, almost like circles. It's just kind of moving it around a little bit. So that's the ethyl alcohol compared to the other ones. And then once it dries, it works in a more similar manner because it doesn't have as much fluid going around. So it starts making those like almost like little cells. Now, my favorite thing to do is a squirt bottle. Like this is the Soho spritz bottle. So this, I have the 91% isopropyl alcohol, and if I halfway squirt that onto the alcohol ink, it gives me these really fun little textures that are really tiny little cells that start forming. And again, if I don't like it, all I have to do is take a little bit of the alcohol, start picking it back up, and then I can soften it that way. But this is a really fun way of, sorry, I'm trying to make sure that doesn't roll into the art. This is a really fun way of like getting a fun texture to play with. And this is very unlike me. I usually don't do kind of abstract style art. But there's your teal Katie. She's got a big smile on her face. I love it. But it's just so pretty. And actually, I'm going to add a little bit of the red because I feel like why not? Also, I had a fingerprint there, so I'm going to just cover that up with a little bit of that red. So once I start moving that around into that blue, it's activating the blue and giving me that really pretty purple. A combination of it is starting to react with the pigments, but it's also starting to optically mix where it's like a layer sitting on top of a layer. And then you see light pass through both of those layers and creates the illusion of that color. But it is also a bit of both because it's starting to react. Like you can see, if I were to move this, that's definitely purple over on the glass palette that I have underneath, which also is another one of my favorite surfaces to be playing with the alcohol inks on top of, because once it dries, you can very easily clean that back up, but it's very lovely to clean even if it's not dry. So, little spritzer and an easy wiper, and it's gone. Right, now, I hope you guys are ready for some really fun surfaces because I have other ones. Again, I go a little nutty when it comes to alcohol inks. I cannot help myself. One that is a definite favorite are these clear tiles. And I was actually just looking, I don't know if I took off, yeah. So when it comes to these clear tiles, they have these like plastic coating, like a protective piece on both sides. And I always forget to remove the back one because I'm like, ooh, colors, and forget that it's there. But I usually only remove the top side that I'm going to be working with. But this is the poison color that I told you guys about, and it looks like I made a petri dish, and I cannot help but love this because it's just such a funky green. I believe it actually matches my couch, now that I think about it. Yes, that's the color of my couch. It's beautiful. So those are the clear tiles, and I'll also show you this right here, which is the clear acetate. I actually use the graphics ones that's biodegradable, which is great. So this right here is really fun because now I can cut this up and collage with it as well because it's just a very thin piece of plastic. But then if I wanted to, I could also, I wonder if that's dry. I don't know if it is. Where's my other, it's over here, sorry. If I wanted to take other colors and start layering them on top of each other, I could very easily start messing with optically mixing in actual layers that I can physically move around, which is really, really fun. But something that like you could very easily make a larger piece if you were to start cutting these out and playing with them. But let's do a couple of the colors that I have over here. It's only 6 o'clock. I think I can do one of each, right? Yeah, we'll do one of the tiles and one piece of the acetate. I just didn't want to, run out of time. So, and I dropped the bottle of ink.
While you're prepping, can you talk about what you would be able to put over top of the dried alcohol inks? Like if you would be able to layer other things on top?
That's a great question, and I'm going to actually hold that question until a little bit later because I have other things to show you that are going to answer that exact question. You have another question though?
Yes.
Yes.
Lots of people are wondering how brushes would work with these.
They work great because they do actually stay active for quite a while. They actually work really, really well. I wonder, I actually have an Ebony Splendor.
Definitely use synthetic brushes.
Yes, this is a synthetic brush. It's a golden Taklon. You do not want to use your Kolinsky Sable brushes with these, please, please, please don't do that. But I can actually do a little brushy brush on that. So I only selected a few colors on here, and I can actually show you. I wanted to show you guys the fluorescents, which are really, really fun. But the colors that I did select outside of that is Mount Everest. I got slate blue. Also, if you guys are wondering, these are the swatches you are seeing on the website. So if you were really curious as to whether or not it starts breaking apart and having those like color shifts, yes, they do, because we actually swatched every single ink and put them up on the website for you to see. Then grayish violet, which is beautiful, and I know Amanda's gonna want me to use that. But then I have a gray lavender, which also does that really, really pretty color shift, and I'm obsessed. Then, I can't help myself. It's called Brain. It's like, it's in the red violet family, so it has a warmth and a redness, like almost like a red violet tone to it, but it's so desaturated because it's red violet 8, I believe. So the higher that first number is, the more desaturated your colors are gonna be. Right? And then the second number, just like we were talking about with the markers, the second number after the dash is your the value. So first number is saturation. So this is in the 8 family, very desaturated. The higher the number, the more desaturated. And because it's 5, you can get a level 5 value with this. So that's Brain. Here's the Poison. I love this color so much. It's so good, like that color shift that happens. Oh, I can't help it. It looks like Poison. I can't help it. I did actually grab Poison Light as well as Chartreuse because apparently I am obsessed with green. But I don't have the swatches on me for those. But this is the Key Lime. So it has like the blue undertones, but then it's so pretty. Dark green, again with those blue undertones, but like, oh, so lovely. And then I have 2 different black colors. So this is the solid black, that's just black is the name of the color. It is code number 100, so this is your standard black, right? This is cold black. See how it kind of shifts more towards like a blue, which is in the cool gray family. So this is the cold black, CG10, I believe is the code. So I have 2 different blacks that I have been playing with. So together, this neutral black looks warmer compared to the cold black. But if I were to grab like the warm gray number 10, this would still look neutral and that would look even warmer, which playing with those 3 together would be pretty, but I didn't think about that beforehand. That's okay. I have more things to show you. So I wanted to use a couple of these different colors to play with, as well as the fluorescents, because, you know, can't help myself. But Amanda, I know you're gonna pick this. The grayish violet.
Gray lavender, ma'am.
The gray lavender. Okay. All right, Mott, which color do you want? that goes with Great Lavender. I mean, they all can work. That's the beauty of it. They're so interchangeable.
You got the poison up there?
Yes, I have Poison.
Please.
I also have Poison Light.
Ooh.
But I think Poison has that better shift because I'm a little bit more obsessed with it because it has a deeper value to begin with, whereas the light starts a little bit brighter. But your choice. Poison or Poison Light?
Let's go with poison.
Okay. All right. So we have two very different colors. That's fun. And then Katie?
Mount Everest.
Mount Everest. Okay. So these are the colors I'm going to be playing with. Very fun. Love that.
I would have picked Great Lavender, but I want to see what that Mount Everest does with those other two.
Okay. All right. So let's go on the clear acetate for this one because I do love that, but I might actually do.
I will say that was my
different.
famous last words when we were playing with these before. It's like, I just want to see what these two do.
Uh-huh. And then we just keep adding.
4 hours later.
Uh-huh. This is where I don't want to say it's a time suck, but it's the best possible waste of, like, not even a waste of time. It's just the way that, like, your creativity just gets unleashed in no other way that it does that with this. And it's so much fun. Okay, Poison. And the Great Lavender. Okay. So, I think I'm going to go with, like, the Mount Everest in between these two. So this is when you start putting together your palettes, it's really fun to see what they do and how they interact. But because this Great Lavender has that like reddish kind of undertones and the Poison has definitely more of the green, they're opposite on the color wheel. So I probably want to separate them and not have them interact so much because I think that'll make mud. So I think I'm gonna have the Mount Everest in between them. So now this clear acetate, I think I actually got a little dirty on that side, sorry. They've just been sitting in my drawer over here, so they might have gotten a little dirty, but it's a different kind of surface. You have to remember that, right? So it's going to not absorb anything because it is a literal sheet of plastic, right? Let's do Poison. I'm gonna put Poison up here. And I'm gonna also carry it down just a little bit so that the purple can interact with it. The Great Lavender. Right? Okay. So now I'm gonna take my squeezy and start moving it around and get them to kind of start mixing together. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought it would do, is like, it's like a weird, I'm not mad about it. It's so bizarre, right?
Oh, pretty.
It's so pretty. Oh, and that gives it a really pretty, like, teal kind of color.
Especially like that weird brown with the
I know, I was just saying that, like, I don't mind
pretty.
what that did, you know? So the thing that I like to do is I get to this stage and I just stop. I let it be. I let it kind of dry out a little bit because I want it to start evaporating the alcohol, that's the content that's in the marker, or not the markers, the alcohol inks. So I also almost forgot I have a brush to use. Now, I did want to use as well, I have the blender medium, which is the 0, which is essentially going to act just like my isopropyl alcohol, which is really, really cool. So if I start dripping this around, it'll do the same thing, just like my isopropyl alcohol will. And because, again, this is a sheet of plastic, it's not absorbing anything, so it's immediately starting to push all of those, the dye colors out from there. And then if I want to soften it a little bit, all I have to do is kind of blow it around. But it is actually evaporating quite quickly, which is lovely. Now, I do want to, I'll use the 70% isopropyl alcohol, right? Dip my brush in there, if I can get it in there without, there we go. So it's because my alcohol ink is already starting to dry, I can feel it's almost like gummy, but it's definitely wanting to like interact with that But there you go. It can absolutely brush on. Now, can I, oh yeah, here, let me move things out of the way so you guys can get a better view. Oh gosh, I'm trying to stand those up and it's like, it's not working great. Balancing is not my forte. All right, so here we go.
There are stands in the works.
Yes, we're working on stands for the inks and I'm very excited about it. So again, this is like mostly dry and it's wanting to, I can feel it's kind of almost gummy, but that alcohol that's on here is definitely interacting with it. So if I wanted to, I could get, let me go to an area that you guys can see better. There we go. So like even the brush strokes aren't going to stay because they're going to kind of almost self-level out, which is really fun. But again, if I let that sort of dry, sorry, I'm going to try and blow that dry a little bit faster. I can then take my isopropyl alcohol and drip it right back on top. Or the really fun thing is to pop in more color. Because when in doubt, add more color, right? Isn't that the whole thing? Yeah. That's the blender medium. I keep wanting to reach for that. All right, and then the poison. I really love how that looks. All right. And then that grade lavender. Now, when it comes to the alcohol kind of color coordination that I do, I try not to go super crazy when it comes to the amount of colors that I pick, unless I know how they interact. Wow, that just kind of shot out a little bit there. If you do squeeze this really hard, really fast, and really close to the surface, you will spray. So just be aware of that, like I just did again there. But yeah, so when I start choosing my colors, I try to stick with like 3 colors to begin with if I'm not sure how they interact and how it works together. But if I start seeing things that I think other colors would do well with, I can then incorporate them with it. Like, where is this one? I don't know if you guys are ready for this. This is the fluorescent yellow, and it's going to push everything out and make it so vibrant and bright. It's so pretty. And it makes it just like this pop of like really bright yellow. I love it so much. You have a question?
Yes. Now that you've used your brush in these, how would you clean it afterwards?
Just in the isopropyl alcohol, because like it's still like got the dye in there. Let me just wipe that on my apron. But if I were to take an easy wiper rag, get most of it off, I can probably just swish it around in a little thing of the isopropyl. That's ethyl alcohol. Where's my isopropyl alcohol? Where did I put? Oh, it's the one that's kind of dyed now. It's not clear isopropyl alcohol anymore. It still works just as well. But I might even take a little bit on my glass palette. And I can probably get the majority of it out there. And then when I'm done for the day, I'll just wash this with soap and water and it'll be fine. It might start dyeing the bristles of your brush, but again, it's a dye-based ink. So it's not going to rinse out like a normal paint would, if that's any indicator. Where is this one? So, also wanted to just pop in another fluorescent color because, yes, this is probably one of my favorite. I'm not really a pink girl, let's be honest. I usually lean towards like blues and greens, but I cannot help myself. It's so pretty. And then let me take the squirty bottle here. and just give it all the texture. Make sure these are out of the view here. And again, if I have too much texture and I don't like it, while it's wet, I can very easily start moving it around. And if it dries too quickly on, like you don't get to it fast enough, just take a little dropper and then it'll start moving it around like that. And you can almost obliterate the texture or use the inks as well. But this right here is why I've been doing this all day. Because the possibilities are endless and they're so pretty. But again, I'm using clear acetate. So if I'm finished with this and it's dry and done, I can then take additional clear acetate and start layering them in other ways. Like maybe I have other fluorescent ones that I put on there. But the sky is the limit when it comes to layering these. It's just so much fun. And even if, again, if you cut this up and start collaging with it, you have so many possibilities. But I'm going to take this and move it off to the side because I'm going to show you the clear tile that I have here. Like I said, that there is a... Did I take the thingy off of that side first? I can't remember if I did or not. And it's clear and it's hard to see. I think I did. It's definitely on that side. Yeah, okay, I did. So I removed it from the top, sorry. It's hard to see. I removed it from the top, but I'm going to keep it on the bottom because that'll kind of protect the bottom side just a little bit. Now this one I am going to put into the gray tray thing here because I know it's going to run off my sides and it's going to be actually, you know what, because it's gray, it's gonna be hard for you guys to see. I'm just gonna leave it on the glass palette, it's fine. But I wanted to do a couple fluorescent colors because yes, there's the fluorescent red, so pretty. Here is the fluorescent orange, which I feel like it's fluorescing so much on camera that it's hard to see the difference in color. But I can see it in real life. It's just so pretty. And I know, that's what I was gonna say. If you start adding more and more, you're gonna start getting that really bright edge happening. Yes, we have a question?
A couple.
Okay.
One, is there a way to make these more light fast?
Again, that will be a question that I answer when I start showing you the other fun things.
Okay. Also, are you going to talk about framing later? If not,
I mean,
share with us
I
how you would
can
frame it
incorporate that, yeah.
with this medium.
Yeah.
And then, have you tried to do like flowers or anything like realistic with painting with this, or would you suggest more?
That's something that I haven't actually done with this ink specifically, but I have done other inks with that. Actually, we had another alcohol ink show that I did where I used the tiles and everything. I actually ended up doing, what was that called? The relief paste? I think it's by Pabio. Mm-hmm. So the relief paste, it almost looks like glass leading where you like draw it on top and then it kind of holds things in almost like a well, and then you can fill in the alcohol ink in those little areas and then you can almost paint with it like a stained glass. Mm-hmm. But again, just remember it's not light fast because it's dye-based. Yes. So that's what I wanted to show you really with the clear tiles, is that edge that you get that glows. It's so much fun. And then again, you can also layer these because I did that on the last show as well. And then the other thing that I did is I actually drilled in little holes at the top and attached it with a chain and hung them outside like a wind chime. It was so pretty and so fun. But that is the glass tiles, or the clear acrylic tiles. And they come in packs of 5, which is really fun. So let me get this out of the way because I have other surfaces to show you and I'm very excited. Yes, we have a question?
Yes. YouTube is wondering how well acrylic and oils can layer over top of these once they've dried.
Again, I will tell you that in just a second. I'm almost there, guys. Okay, so I love that you guys have that question because I had the exact same question for sure. Let me clear off
Been
this little.
sciencing all day.
Yes, very, very sciencey day today, and I've been here for it. All right, so I have the Senso all media sized linen painting panel. It is clear sized, so this is sealed. It is actually probably one of my favorite surfaces in the history of ever. I love it so much, just because I am just a nut for like the clear, like linen kind of texture and color and everything. Everything about it makes me happy. So you can use the alcohol inks on this. Let's go. I'm gonna use the slate. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go with the mixing primaries because like I did that earlier and I really love it. And where'd they go? I gotta find them. Mixing yellow, mixing blue, and where's my mixing red? Did I lose it? I might have lost it. Where did I put it? That's Mount Everest. Well, if you can't find, oh, there's mixing red. I was gonna say if I can't find it, I was gonna use fluorescent. It's fine. Actually, I might just use fluorescent anyway. Let's go fluorescent pink. Why not? Because I can. So again, you have to remember what the surface that you're using, it's going to interact slightly different because it is a canvas. It is slightly textured. And this will start to absorb it ever so slightly. But for this one, let's use the 70%. This is also where I start making a mess, so I'm sorry if I get things dirty, but if you start spraying a wet ink, it will start spritzing out little speckles of color, which is super fun. But I just want to get the surface of this saturated because then I can start tilting. But you can also see like where it started spraying, and it's going to start blurring out a little bit. And I did that. Yep, this is why I'm a mess. This is why I scrubbed my hands earlier. Oh, here we go. Nice, okay. So this is the mixing blue, the mixing yellow, and fluorescent pink. Right? So again, I would probably let that dry and then start going in with the alcohol, but time is of the essence here. And I want to get a little bit more like a texture going on here. Trying not to splatter my apron as much as I can, but oh well. All right, so I definitely got it all over everything. Whoops. Now, if I want to kind of tone down that really crazy bright fluorescent kind of area, I have my mixing red and I can start mixing that in. And then let's do the slate blue, which is a really pretty kind of blue that leans more towards the red. Whereas like the cyan leans more towards like green. Right? And again, it's kind of like you're not sure what's going to happen, but you can get a sort of idea when you know your colors. But this is the funnest way to practice color mixing. And this is that 91% isopropyl alcohol, so it's really reacting quite fast, which is lovely. But I just want a little bit of texture in there, right? So I'm not going to the edges. If you want to go to the edges, you can. where is my spritzer bottle? A really fun way to do that is to just get it really saturated all the way to the edges and then blow this over to the side. This is definitely going to start hurting my arm after a while with a squeezy bottle, or the squeezy, the air, what is that called again? I have the name of it here, hold on. Air blower, alcohol ink air blower, that's the name of it. So yeah, if you wanted to go to the edges, you absolutely can. And the really cool thing is like how it got really dark here. If I let that dry and I don't like how dark it got, I can take my isopropyl alcohol, start dropping it in, give it a second to react, and then I can just really blast that area and push the pigments out, which is really, really fun. Now, I hope you guys can see how bright that is. Insanely bright. It's so pretty though. And that's on not a white surface. Yeah, so fluorescent is insane. So actually here, I can show you. This is the mixing yellow. I hope that's coming across. It's harder to see on the linen surface than it is white. But that was the fluorescent yellow. I feel like it's not as vibrant. I want to show you on a white canvas though. But yeah, it's so much fun to be playing on the surface. Now, I will show you one that I did earlier because this will start answering those questions that you guys were talking about, right? So, this one I played with all day. I would walk by, sprinkle a little bit of the isopropyl alcohol on it, and then let it dry, you know, use my little air blower, squeeze it around, move it around, drip in some more colors. There's my fluorescent yellow that started interacting with, honestly, whatever that red is. I don't remember what it is. There's my mixing red. I definitely have the mixing blue in here. I think that's the fluorescent pink, no, up here. And then, yeah, more fluorescence. And then I have, like, there's the poison that I dropped in. And then just a couple of different colors that I did. But as I'm moving this around, you guys can see shiny spots, right? Because I took this and I sealed it with a varnish. Now, I didn't want to use a brush varnish, mostly because I wasn't sure how well that might leave it on the surface because even though it is a dye base and it's probably going to stain the surface a little bit, I don't know how much that would activate it because this is usually not water-based. Usually my varnishes that I use are more of a solvent-based, so it's probably going to have some interaction with it. So with me using the spray, it already dries really quickly because I'm doing really light layers. But it didn't interact on the surface to the point where I could notice the difference. Like it didn't add any weird textures or anything. But the biggest thing for me, UV archival. Now, here's the thing that I was joking about this with my coworker earlier. We're already starting with a fugitive ink. If you were to leave this in the sun, yes, it is going to start fading. It's just the nature of the inks. That's just what's going to happen. This is going to help. This is going to really, really help it have some layer of protection toward the UV lights. Can't penetrate it as much. Now, that does not mean it's going to fully protect it forever, like 100%. Just, it's going to do a really good job as much as it can. But the other thing that this does is that it seals it in. So now I splattered the gold ink, which is the gold Artfinity ink. I dipped a brush in here and I splattered it down, and I got a really lovely splatter of gold spots. So my plan is that this is not finished still. I want to paint on top of this, and I can because I've already sealed the surface and this is not moving. And I have not tested this yet, but I'm pretty sure if I were to put isopropyl alcohol on like the corner here, I don't think it's going to move. and it doesn't look like it's moving at all. Because like I've sealed it. I've a lot of layers. And it's not moving at all. Now granted, I don't know what it's going to do to the varnish, so I'm going to just pick that right back up. But yeah, it didn't move the ink at all. So that ink is really, really sealed in there, which is really fun. Now, the part that I was laughing about with my friend, my coworker, is that usually you don't paint on top of varnish because that's supposed to be your final layer. So the surface of this is a little bit more slick. So it might not be archival over time, but we're already starting with something that's not 100% archival anyway. So like, break all the rules. It's fine. It's gonna be good. But yeah, so my plan is to actually paint on top of this. I have not decided. I think a portrait would be really fun, but like not 100% fully painted in. A little bit of this showing through. I'm very excited. But that's my plan for this because yes, all the colors. Now, that being said, I wanted to also test it on other canvases that weren't the linen color, and I made space. I hope you guys can see the really pretty, like you can see it on the edges, I think a little bit more, but like all the subtle colors that I got in here, it is so lovely. So that brownish kind of color right there, that's Brain. That made me so happy. It is so pretty. And actually, you know what? I feel like it's 6:26. Yeah, no, I don't think I have another time for another one. But I do have time to splatter this with ink. Now, I've already sealed this with varnish. And actually, I wanted to show you the difference between varnished and not varnished. I almost forgot that I had this down here. So let me just toss that aside. Actually, here, while I'm showing you that, this one, I have gold ink, I have copper ink, I have silver, and I have chrome. What color do I use on this? Please tell me. You guys pick chrome, silver, which is like a brushed silver kind of a thing. I have chrome, I have silver, I have gold, I have copper. I will leave it to the viewers. You guys tell me. I know that they're like a split decision over here. So while you guys are putting your votes in for what color fancy stars that I put in my nebula that I made, and I know that you guys are going to ask. The colors that I used in here, that warmer color is Brain. The blue over here is Mount Everest. I have both colors of the black. So I have the neutral black, which is black 100. And then I have the cold black, which is down here where I started going into the Mount Everest. And then I think I even touched in a little bit of the, what is it, the purple that I had. Not lavender, but the other one. I have so many colors over here. What is that? What is the grayish violet? That's it. Grayish violet. So that grayish violet had a little bit of a moment in here too. So yes, you guys tell me, get your votes in. But I wanted to show you this. Varnished versus not varnished. So color-wise, they're pretty on point, right? The color didn't shift between the two of them. The one thing that you can really tell when it comes to varnished versus not varnished, there we go. The sheen. So like this is far more unified. It has a consistency on the sheen because it has that varnish, right? It's going to unify that. This side, where I have more of the canvas kind of showing through, where it got thinner, it's almost matte, whereas like the upper areas where it's got a lot more ink kind of layered on is more shiny. Yeah, you can see it really, really pronounced there. So this is going to just unify it together, but it's not going to really change your colors at all. The other thing I noticed, and I don't know if you guys can see, it's really, really subtle, where I wrote on top of it with a Posca marker, because I know you guys are going to ask. This is just a Posca marker. The colors are still really, really bright and bright white. This, I can start seeing like the D over here is starting to tint green, whereas like over here it's got that like orangey red. Like I feel like it's starting to absorb that dye. I wonder if we can see that better over here. Again, I'm sorry, it's upside down, but like hopefully you guys can see that. Like I feel like this got way brighter. I hope that's visible on camera. But the one thing that I really, really noticed, all of my letters over here are cracking. It's really noticeable on that D. It is the weirdest thing ever, but the D is, like every letter here, it has subtle cracks in it, but that D is like really, really cracking. There is no cracking on this side whatsoever. So I think it's just allowing it to sit on top and having a better adhesion to the surface. So if you want to do your markers on top of this, I think really varnishing is going to be much, much better for you anyway. And it's going to give you a better surface to go in on, and keep your markers not having that weird cracking kind of reaction to it. I feel like that's just one of those things. So have I answered all those questions that everybody was asking? Like, can you layer on top of it? How do you seal it? Was there any more that I missed?
The other one was how would you frame it?
Oh, how would you frame it? Depends on the surface that you use. So this is on a canvas. I would either leave that unfinished edge because it's kind of fun, honestly. And it depends on which one you're, oh, here, sorry. I'm bringing it off camera. It depends on which one you're looking at. They're all really lovely and they all kind of drip off. That was me testing the marker. Sorry, ignore that. But, so since this is a canvas, I can very easily just either put this in a normal frame and put it on the wall. If you don't varnish it, I would suggest you put it under glass. UV protected glass, especially if you're using it on something like the papers, or like the Duralar or the acetate. Those are something that, like, unless you varnish it, you're not giving it any level of protection. So you want something to keep the UV lights from really messing with your colors. You have another question?
Yes. I have two questions that go along with this. Someone is wondering if there are any gel, clear coats, or varnishes they should avoid with this medium. And then someone specifically asked about the Tri-Art liquid glass.
Again, it's one of those things that I feel like for both of those questions, you're really going to have to just play with it. This is going to interact with any other medium just like any other alcohol ink would. So if you have a gel medium that wouldn't react well with another alcohol ink that you already have in your kind of arsenal of inks, odds are this is going to behave the same way. It's not like a proprietary mix of like a binder of alcohol. It's all kind of the same thing. So they're all going to behave similarly. So when it comes to gel mediums and stuff like that, you're going to have to test it. I would suggest either using like a little scrap piece of paper, or a scrap, like we have our little mini canvases that you can use. That would be really easy for you to like make notes and stuff on the back. Like the panels, and then you can have those as like your reference for any other artwork that you do in the future, and you can have those as like your little testers, which are really fun. Another question?
One more.
Yeah.
How many layers of varnish are recommended?
That would depend on the varnish. So this one, I can't remember how many it says. It's a lot of really tiny little writing. I'm sorry. Read the back of your can. The can of varnish is going to tell you. For me, I usually do like 4 to 6 coats no matter what, because I'm also really bad at reading directions sometimes. But I will suggest you really do need to read the directions. Please do, because depending on the finish, like you want to really make sure that you're doing it correctly. So like I know if for a matte finish with a spray varnish, they suggest you do like 4 layers in gloss and then do your last 1, maybe 2 layers in the matte. The reason why is because those mattifying agents that are in there to dull the sheen, if you build it up that much within the 4 to 6 layers, you can really kind of dull down your colors. This is a satin varnish. That's why it has a slight shine to it, but that's my personal preference, is I like satin, so I grab satin. But yes, please read the back of your cans. But yes, very good question. But yes, do we have any more questions before I officially splatter that canvas with ink? I'm running out of space, sorry. And I'm gonna get ink on everything. So what is the consensus? What color are we going with?
Facebook, it was copper.
Okay.
I think it was almost 50-50 chrome copper on YouTube.
Okay, well I'm gonna say copper wins then. Because if, you know, we got 50, I really wanted to see the chrome too, but like you guys speak. Nah. I guess I could do both, but that might be too much. We're gonna do copper. which is good because I already have the brush over here because I forgot to get a brush. There we go. So I need to shake this for a second. Okay, so I'm gonna get ink all over my hands. Nobody judge me. If you're not getting into a mess, like, are you really doing art, right? This might be the wrong brush to do, but. All right, now I'm going to also take the end of my brush and dip it in there and just kind of boop, 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 boop for a couple big stars. I'm trying not to touch it too much. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm hesitant to move it around, but like, it looks so pretty. It's really subtle because it's like hard to get the sheen off of there and have it reflect for you guys. All right, consensus. How do we feel about the copper?
Yeah, I think it's pretty.
It's beautiful. I feel like it really goes off really well with the brain color. I mean, I feel like they just go hand in hand. Right? I feel like it's done. Feel like it's done. Yes. All right, guys. Hopefully it doesn't run. Oh gosh. There's a blob of ink on the top there. All right. Hopefully that'll, there we go. I'm trying to get it to where that shine doesn't hit it. There we go. Yeah, let's go to the top view. That might be easier. There we go. Yes. Oh. It's hard to be on camera, guys. This is backwards to me. There we go. Oh, it's so pretty. I love like the tiny little ones. Those are really subtle and so pretty with like then I get the big ones. Oh, all right, consensus, guys. Do I finish here and this is it? Or do I paint something else on top? Last question of the night. I will let you guys put that in the comments. I will be, of course, back through the comments to read them and answer any questions that I might have missed or that we didn't get to tonight. But of course, if you're also watching this in the future, sorry, that was a sound. If you're watching this in the future and you have questions, please add those to the comments below as well. I will always go back through and make sure to answer them as they come in because, you know, it's a really fun process. There's a lot that we went over today. I hope I inspired you guys to go play with all of the inks because I only touched on just a few here, but there were so many colors. There's 100 colors within this line, and oh geez, you guys are gonna kill me. I'm sorry. I was going to sign off, but I have one last thing that I promised that I was going to do. I have to refill a marker. I told you guys I was gonna refill a marker. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. You guys definitely need to see that. All right, so I have the fluorescent red. I'm going to move this out of the way before I forget. And I have gloves down here. Quick little demo for you guys. Of course, I put the gloves on for this, like my hands aren't already dirty. I don't want to hear it. If anybody's talking about how ironic it is that I put gloves on for this. Shh. Okay, so with the markers, the Artfinity sketch markers, you have the two sides. You have the chisel tip and then you have the brush tip. The chisel, I believe, is not double-sided, so like, yes, you can technically yank it out of there. It's not the easiest to yank out of there, so I always just stick with the brush side. So if you take the marker off or the cap off, just grab the nib. You can do this with tweezers if you're more coordinated than I am, but I'm just going to use gloves and just literally twist it just really gently and pull it out. And it's a lot longer than you would think. But there you go. It's a double-sided brush tip that you can, if you end up crushing your marker nibs or if your kids get into them kind of a thing, you can absolutely have that flipped back over. And I think we're even going to get some replacement ones too. So corresponding ink that I made into a mess and I'm making it worse. So the tip of that is shaped that way because not only is it really easy to do, you know, drips of, you know, artwork for your alcohol inks, but it's also gonna fit perfectly inside the marker. do a little bit of a squeezy. Now, this isn't a very dry marker either, so I can't really refill it. Haven't used it that much, but that's all you have to do. Just squeeze some ink in there, put your nib back in, and if you want to, just leave it be and like cap it and just let it sit horizontally. It will recharge your nib. Now, if you really need to use it right away, you can take your ink, just a little drip. Actually, let's go to that side camera because then you can see it kind of almost absorb better. There we go. All right, so if I have a drop of ink that's coming off of the bottle, it'll absorb right into that ink, or into the nib, and that's recharging my nib. So it's ready to use right away. But that's the easiest way to refill. I'm getting that ink everywhere. The easiest way to refill your markers. Now I know we're working on also indicating which ones have the inks. I think we're gonna get those on the website for the markers, but they are the exact same color, whether it's the ink or marker. If it has the same name and same code, same exact color. But that was Artfinity Alcohol Ink, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I've inspired you to make a big artistic mess. They're really fun to use. So if you do, please make sure you post them. I would love to see what you create. If you're on Facebook or any other social media, use the hashtag JL284. But if you are on Facebook, you can also post it to our Jerry's Life Facebook group, which is free to join. And I believe it's about 7,000 people now, where it's just a big artistic community where you can post your artwork, post your questions, get inspiration, all that kind of thing. But if you do want to join, make sure you answer that one security question. Otherwise, you're deemed a robot and not allowed in. So that's kind of important. Answer the question. But that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and make sure you join us next week because Mott and I are going to actually be back on together, and we're going to be going over palette knife painting techniques with the Lucas Pastos acrylic paints. So I'm really excited. It's going to be so much fun, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!